Welcome yet again to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and what a privilege it is to just sit in this chair and have this live experience with you as we broadcast yet another Sunday morning out into the West Valley and beyond. And it's just so reassuring to know that we're getting about a third of our community online to participate with us in this live way. But more than that, what's been fun for us is to see that after 1 week's time, we have more than 200 people that have listened to the Sunday message. So in the same way, I feel so isolated, and it's so strange to still be sort of doing this with you. In this social media experience of distancing. At the same time, what I understand is that Spirit itself has something bigger in mind, and that is that all of our centers are being represented in such a much larger way. So thank you for being here. Happy Mother's Day. It is a Sunday morning where we really, deep in our hearts, honor the feminine spirit, that precious creativeness that is the gift of God, that is all of the nurturing and the loving and that power of creation. And so in order to honor all of that in a worthy way this day, I would like to begin with prayer. So if you'll just pause with me for a moment. We just take a breath, knowing that it's that very breath that pulls us into the present moment. And so right here, right now, in this perfect setting on a Sunday morning, I recognize that God is here, that the infinite wisdom of all the universe is that which is guiding and directing and allowing us to have this gorgeous sense of connection with each other, with life, and indeed with Spirit itself. So I know this time is blessed, and I affirm that we have a beautiful broadcast without any hitches or glitches, and that our hearts are open to sense that connection with each other. What a blessed time this is. I release it and allow it to be. And together we say, and so it is. Good morning indeed. I have an interesting message this morning, a message that is entitled Getting Ready. Actually, just threw this together a couple weeks ago because I had planned to be on vacation this week. And as it turns out, I am sitting here with you, and I'm happy to be able to do that. But I made the title of the message, Getting Ready, because we are getting ready, aren't we? We are preparing for the reopening, the time in which we can regather in spiritual community and be with each other, and that I can stand again and I can wear high heels that apparently it turns out that high heels that hurt your feet help relax me a little bit. So I don't know what it is. I brought them here so I could see them. They're right under you as I'm speaking. But we're preparing. We're getting ready for something big. And the way that looks in a physical way is that we're getting ready for a new way of gathering. And so I just want to give you a few little tips because people are starting to ask me, and so I want you to be on the same page. We're getting very good guidelines for our sort of re-entry. What will it look like when we reconvene? And the first thing I want to say is I don't expect us to be doing that this month. So I think that we want to just rest comfortably and know that through the month of May, we have this beautiful ability to record this service and connect a live stream, and you can send me your little loves, your hearts and kisses, and I actually look at them later because I can't pay attention while I'm speaking. I'm not that masterful in that way. But sometime in June, right now it looks possible that we'll be able to reconvene in June, and then they're recommending that we do that in phases. So the first phase will be that those of you who feel comfortable coming and joining in community again in a physical way can do that, and those of you who are concerned about staying home and protecting yourself a little bit longer are absolutely encouraged to do that. That we want you to feel safe, first of all. And then when we come, I will have rearranged the sanctuary a little bit, and we will be sitting a distance from each other. So right now, the recommendation for churches coming together are things like keep the social distance, no hugging. I'm going to really encourage people to not be eager to, I know it'll be hard, but we're going to keep our distance for a while and love each other with, in other ways. And then they've also asked us not to have singing, or because that's not good. They've asked us not to serve food for a while, and anything that requires us getting too close together and sharing viral type things with each other. So just know that at first it'll feel a little clunky, but I don't think we'll care because we'll be so doggone happy to be back together again. The other thing I want to tell you is that in preparing, we've been doing a lot of work around the center, and as many of you know already, we expect that by the time we rejoin here in the West Valley in this building, that it will have new paint on the outside of it. So our painting committee did a beautiful job, and everybody that was involved in the big pieces of putting the painting project together, they have all taken part in making those decisions. We narrowed it down to 3 color choices, color combinations. The board looked at that, and now we have sent those choices off to the city of Peoria, and now we are at the mercy of their the hierarchy that the city plays in, the way we get to show up as a part of the community. So we'll be knowing in a week or two, I think, we should have some more information from the city, and we are ready to paint the minute they give us a thumbs up. So just so you know that, I think it will be thrilling to see that our rejoining each other will be graced with the new exterior. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. This idea of what does it mean to be prepared? What does it mean that we're getting ready in all these different ways? So we're going to be looking at the exterior. We're also talking this morning about that interior preparation, which is really solely the purpose of the spiritual path. The title of the talk, Getting Ready, is actually I'm seeing it as a homework assignment for each and every one of us, that we will take the material that I'm going to speak about now and see how we can apply it in our own life so that we will be creating a readiness of spirit in our own being. I call it an openness. It's a way that we can open to look for that higher wisdom, that divine guidance in how we're going to experience being together as a spiritual community again. And so we're doing that individually, but we're also doing that and preparing for that in a collective way or as a community. So you got some homework. You already know what that is. Going to take some highlights, look for your gem in this particular message this morning, and then you're going to look for how to apply it in a practical way. That is living practical spirituality. Found this amazing quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes in one of our favorite books of his. So many of us agree this is our favorite book, This Thing Called You. And the quote I want to share with you is so rich with meaning and beauty, especially for this kind of preparedness we're talking about today. So listen to these words from this book, This Thing Called You. The world starves in the midst of plenty. It weeps in the midst of joy. Yet the eternal manna has never ceased to fall. The fields of God are ripened to harvest. The garden of your mind was planted by a wisdom that is superior to yours. It is time now to enter in and possess the promised land. that creates a little emotion for me. That stirs some beauty because I believe there's something gorgeous in that reference to the manna. The idea of the manna is that symbolic way we look at what is recorded as the journey of the Israelites through the 40 years of sort of wandering in the desert, and the way in which they were provided with their sustenance every morning by finding manna in the fields that they could gather and use to turn into edible food. It was the sort of the substance where they started with creating the meals that kept them alive for all that time. And it was miraculous. And the manna falls every day. I love the way Holmes has used this symbolically to say that the manna never ceases to fall. But it's sort of up to us to notice. In the same way he said, the world can starve even though we sit in the middle of all this plenitude, that we can weep even as we're surrounded by joy that's always there for us. So just like the manna, there's a step we're invited to participate in, an action to take to gather that so that we are sourced and filled and fed in every way. So it's interesting to me that number 40 was the number of years. 40 shows up biblically often, and generally speaking, the meaning of the metaphorical understanding of that number 40 is very powerful because it represents the completion of a generational attitude, a mental attitude that now shifts into something greater. And what I find sort of synchronistic about that is that we're also having this message on Mother's Day, and a woman grows a child in her womb for 40 weeks. And then that seeming life ends in order for the child to be birthed into something brand new. And I believe that we are in that process worldwide, in a global way. I've said this many times, but we are birthing something brand new as we are sort of in the womb of creation because of this insulation that comes with this idea of a virus or COVID-19. So I reflected this week on the meaning of Mother's Day for me personally. And yes, I am a mother, and I am a grandmother, and I am a great-grandmother. But the most interesting part of Mother's Day and my spiritual path is that I candidated at this church. That's my big job interview on Mother's Day in the year 2011. And what that means mathematically is that this is the 10th time I've been on this platform, this pulpit, and delivered a Sunday message on Mother's Day. So I'm sort of glad I am here today, that I can say that and I can weave it into what I want us to experience in our togetherness. Because when a minister candidates, it is a job interview, except that there is an interview with the committee, the selection committee. Then the practitioners want a little piece of you, and the board needs to get to know you. And then you also stand on a platform and you give a Sunday message, and then you get in the classroom setting and you teach a class, so that all the people that want to have a look at what you bring, they're looking at you. So there's a lot of preparation in getting ready for a process like that. And I can tell you very distinctly, I have such clear memories of Mother's Day in 2011, and even the preparation before that in getting ready. So there are things like, the things that really matter, that that don't seem important at the time, but at a job interview, you care about what you wear. and how you look and how you carry yourself and how you're going to wear your hair. And if you're me, it's really important to pick the perfect pair of shoes and to really honor that pair of heels as a privilege of being on your feet on that occasion. So you do all of this in an exterior way. In the same way, you might say, symbolically, we are painting the exterior of the building in our preparation for the birth of our newness in the way we gather again once we're on the other side of this. But what we don't see, the unseen preparation, is what happens at the level of consciousness. It's the way we prepare ourselves in that interior way. And so it's not even really about writing a message or how you're going to deliver the message. That preparation has to happen before that message is written and definitely before that is delivered. So there's a way, all of us, because we are living our own ministry in very important ways, there is a way that we are always preparing internally for that which lies ahead of us. And so today on Mother's Day, we're sort of talking about what lies ahead is the birth of this new creation that's happening globally, and it's happening to all spiritual communities because none of us have been able to gather, but it's also happening to each and every one of us in a very personal and individual way. And that makes sense to me because we are becoming. You know, I came here for a job interview to become a senior minister. That was my intention, right? And in a lesser way, we are becoming every day. We have been talking about this, haven't we? Because we right now are becoming something we don't even know what that is, because we sense and recognize, we can physically experience that idea that something is emerging through us. So life is a ministry and all of us are becoming, and I think that, as I mentioned at the top of this discussion, we are becoming open to spirit. That would be the thing I would most encourage us to be aware of, is how are we opening to that guidance from God for the choices we're about to make. We're making them right now, but we will continue to make once we are sort of released from the confinement of our own homes, almost as though they're going to take the locks off the outsides of our doors and we'll be free to move about the planet again. When a pregnant woman readies for birth, there comes a point at the end of the pregnancy where it's very clear we are carrying around a heavy load, and we get weary from that. And I think a part of how difficult that is physically is what helps mentally prepare us. You know, we get to that point where I don't care about all those stories I've heard about how awful it's going to be. I just want it out. You know, we just want to deliver that baby. And we also want to have that opportunity to get to see our child that we have created in this union with another human being. And there's an interesting thing that happens to most women. Most women can actually articulate it. We start to nest. There's a nesting instinct. Now, that nesting instinct is very apparent in the animal kingdom. You know, there's a real way that other animals, other than human beings, get ready to protect their newborn creation. But when a woman gets the nesting instinct, and we all hope to get it, because there's an old wives' tale that suggests as soon as you start nesting that means it's imminent, birth is imminent. Boy, don't we wish we could control that, but yeah, it's not like that. But we get this urge to clean. It's the most interesting thing. I remember I had 4 children, and that big belly at the very end, and we want to do strange things like clean out the refrigerator, which is really tricky to do, to get way back in the back of the refrigerator over this old big old belly. But we need to do those things. And no one or nothing could stop us from it if we had that urge to do it. Sometimes I would find myself cleaning windows. Like, why did that matter, But you can't, you have to satisfy. It's sort of an energy. They believe that it's an energy that you're given to use for the birthing process that you will need. And sometimes we waste it on silly things like cleaning. But nonetheless, it's a part of that preparedness, preparing for new life. So I kept thinking as I was writing this talk, like this kind of preparedness, this readiness, this getting ready we're talking about today is so the opposite of disaster preparedness. Not that most of us won't stockpile a little toilet paper when this is all said and done. I'm just thinking that we're going to kind of think differently about how we store our stuff ahead. But what I'm thinking is that the disaster preparedness, if you look at that word disaster, it is such an interesting word. I've never noticed this before, but I love etymology and studying roots of words. And the dis in disaster has to do, it means like without, it's like a separation, without. And then you're left with the root aster, which is star. And so originally, in ancient days, the word disaster actually had to do with astrological misfortune, sort of like that song, you're born under a bad sign. I mean, what are you going to do about that? Well, fortunately, we know we're not victims to any of that we always have choices in how we show up, that we're always creating our own karma. So you can live the consequences of the choices you've made, but then hopefully we learn to make different choices. And so I love that idea that it's not a disaster. It really is the revealing of the star. And then I got excited because last week at the end of my message, I spoke about how when there was a power outage in New York City, that the pollution of the light created a way that people could see that we actually live under a canopy of stars all the time. And so instead of misfortune, it's our good fortune to remember that, to recognize that, and to live our lives aligned to that sort of truth. So yes, we have all gone through this sort of catastrophe of a virus, we have been globally impacted, and we have been personally impacted. And so we've had this sort of state of emergency that has changed our life, which is exactly what an emergency is supposed to do. The very idea of the definition of the word emergency is that something happens that separates us from everything familiar. That there's a sudden interruption that throws us into a brand new, different atmosphere. Not good, not bad. It just suddenly something erupts and we find ourselves in this new place. And whatever that emergency is, it has a demand. It's not an invitation. It is a demand that we rise because of the occasion. It calls us to rise and be very clear in the way that we make decisions and how we want to move through whatever the situation is. So I've been saying this for so long, it's kind of thrilling for me, but some emergency then creates an opportunity for something else to emerge. And then I played with that and I went, as I was typing it for my preparation for this message, emerge and see. Emerge and see, and we see it anew. We see again in a new way. And, that's the theme in the West Valley, at the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. That is our theme for the year. What do I see today? And how can I see it new? And how can I recognize God is right in the middle of it? And I'm so grateful that we had indeed chosen a relevant message. We had no idea how valuable that message would be. So we are preparing to emerge from isolation. We are preparing to be united with each other again. And we are looking at the ways we have been called on to reconfigure how we want our life to be. When else have we had a unique opportunity like that? I always say, when I think of the way God works, I often hear myself saying, it'll take whatever it takes. And here we are. So I want to just invite you to remember this is a unique circumstance, and it is also a precious opportunity. And we want to stay in that place of realizing we are in choice. I read a little bit this week, again, about Viktor Frankl, this magnificent human life, an incredible human being who lived. He's a Holocaust survivor, but he went into that situation as a psychiatrist, as an educated human being who studied human behavior, and it put him in a unique circumstance to study people in disastrous circumstances. And so he left us with a lot of wisdom. He created logotherapy, and he's written works that preserve his findings and the way he came to understand things in moving through that kind of a catastrophe. And one of his quotes that I wanted to share with you this morning seems to sum up sort of the overall message. Here are the words of the Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl. When we are no longer able to change our situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. I know, right? Kind of takes your breath away. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that really sums up for me the way that I understand the great gift of his work. Frankl came out of that circumstance, and I'm sure he didn't have all these realizations right away. Imagine the 2020 hindsight of that kind of experience. But he realized that there was a different way to understand all the work that they were doing in terms of trying to understand human behavior at that time, in the way that they looked at mental well-being, or having a healthy mental state. He called it mental hygiene. I think that's a kind of a great term. But one of the things he concluded and he wrote about, and I'm going to read from his own words. He said, "We have been living under a dangerous misconception that good mental health should look a certain way." And very specifically, he was talking about the way we had believed up until that time. And in many ways, I think we have relaxed and gone back to these old ideas, and that we believe that when you live a very peaceful life without any tension, and that the goal of humanity is to sort of iron out the wrinkles of life so we can have this peaceful state of being, that isn't how we have healthy mental well-being. He said I love that he used that term. It is a dangerous misconception. Contrary to that, he says it is not about removing tension from our lives, but it is the call of potential meaning within us that is waiting to be fulfilled by the individual. That we all have that potential, and that it is waiting within us to be fulfilled. And it is the situations in life that we live through that give us that opportunity to call it forward. This is the very substance of what the teaching of the science of mind is based upon. This is the very stuff spoken of in all the things that we study, and the people that we respect, and the metaphysicians that predate the idea of new thought and metaphysical understanding of the Bible, and all those things that we look at every week. But then he ends this quotation with this classic illustration that I am privileged to stumble on again this week and to share with you. He said, if architects of the old days, if the architects want to strengthen a decrepit arch, think of that. They increase the load which is laid upon the arch and thereby the parts are joined more firmly together. My friends, we have been carrying around a heavy load, a very heavy load. And I believe that it has caused us to join together in unique and unexpected ways that we have never experienced before. So whether that is how important our phone conversations have become with each other, whether it's the way we miss our spiritual community, whether it is the way we are using media, virtual media like Zoom and Facebook Live, we are using this for teaching and relaying our Sunday message to hundreds and thousands and millions of people around this globe. All of these ways we have been strengthened by this weight we're carrying around. I want to revisit that quote from Ernest Holmes that I used in the opening of this message. The world starves with plenty all around us. We weep even in the midst of the joy that is still ever present. And yet the eternal manna, the grace of God, the goodness and givingness of God never ceases to fall around us. The garden of our minds has been planted by a wisdom that is far superior to anything we can imagine on our own. But when we align to the spiritual truth of our being, it is boundless. It is inexhaustible in the way it is supplied, like the manna that comes daily. And then these gorgeous words, this invitation that says, "Enter in and possess now the promised land." One day, not too far away, I'm certain of that. One day we are going to walk through those doors again. We will see a beautiful new exterior. But let us also do our work now to create a strong foundation of that which we will be stepping into. Let us create a consciousness. Let's do our own work individually. Let's be clear in having intention for how we want to exit our own house in a different way than the way we were locked down. In that new consciousness, in that vision that's risen, and we can see different perspectives than we've ever seen before, willing to do our work. Let us use this nesting energy in a very positive way. We have been prepared, and those of us who have a foundation in this teaching, the science of mind, that we have these skills that this gorgeous philosophy has graced us with. We are so blessed to have skills and to already understand what it means to have and practice a practical spirituality. And so we are possessing again this promised land. This is ours, this building. But greater than that, the promised land that comes in our spiritual consciousness and in the way we create community in our togetherness. So your homework is this, very specifically. Your homework in your preparation, in your getting ready at this time of nesting, is to ask yourself, who am I becoming? What am I becoming individually? And what does that mean to my spiritual community? Who are we in our togetherness? Who are we becoming? And how are we preparing for that now? And how can I do even better in the way that I prepare for what I am becoming? And what is the spiritual work that I am called to do now? Now, while we're sequestered, now, while we're experiencing the ups and the downs and the movement of life in this way that there is this activity of birth, the constriction and the expansion, so that the fullness of birth can be experienced when the time is perfect. We do not hurry this process. We take our place in it We do the breath work of it. We are strong coaches to each other, assuring us that we can get through those valleys and that we can rejoice together when we stand at the tops or we see our way around the next bend. We've got that. Here we are, succeeding in this work of preparation. We're preparing this building. We're using our energy in this nesting. I can't wait for you to see the interior surprises that are unfolding in this work. We are doing some deep cleaning in this building, and oh my goodness, we have some beautiful surprises. We are emerging, we are becoming, and we are going to be better than ever before in ways that this minister had not even imagined. So join me in that place of inviting the higher vision, the higher idea of what's possible. And so I'd like to close with this quote just to remind you that we are an organization that stands in principle. And that's everything I've been talking about this morning. From the words of our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, we do not make the law work. You know, there are spiritual laws just as there are physical laws. We do not make gravity work, and we do not control the spiritual universe. We do not make the law work. It is the nature of the law to work, and it is always, always working. In gladness, we make our desires known. This is the time, my friends, in gladness. Dare to envision how we would like to rejoin in community, how you would like to see your life on the other side of COVID-19. We make our desires known, and in confidence we wait. We declare to the divine what we are willing to accept into our life, and then we wait. Our part is to be ready and willing so that we then can be guided into truth and liberty and freedom and beauty and magnificence. Those are the things I desired to say today. So thank you for being a part of this experience of sharing live and in person online, or hearing this later and sharing the message with your friends. These are important words that need to be passed along. In fact, they're so important, I would like to anchor them in the words of prayer right now. So just get comfortable where you're seated. Find your place where you sense how gorgeously and perfect we are, completely supported by the universe. Feeling our feet on this beautiful planet and sensing all of that creative nesting energy of Mother Earth bubbling up within us, because right where we are is the fullness of God. All of the creative energy of the universe right here in this moment, nothing separating us in any way, in full union and connection with each other and in divine communion with God itself. I feel the love of God within me, and I do recognize it as that activity of life, that joyous expectation of all the things that are changing and mutating in positive ways, so that the fullness and the perfection of the universe can be revealed in our physical being as well as in our spiritual communities, in this thing called life. And so I know these words are powerful, that this message today is important on so many levels, that we are getting ready, but that we are a part of this process, that we stand at the end of a generational idea and attitude that is now carrying the entire planet, every human on this world, in this globe, in this experience of life. Every human is impacted by that which is new, that which is gestating, that which is developing, that which is ready to be born in a physical way, so that we can see it and love it and be a part of creating that holy newness. We do not waver from what is possible, but instead we stand in truth. We recognize that there is a law, that there is a way that as we align to spiritual principle and to law, that we say yes to God. We say yes to God, and then there's that aspect of the divine that is always sweetly holding us and whispering gently to us, yes, my child. Yes, my child, it is given just as you have asked. And so this day, we open our hearts, we open our minds, we open ourselves to receive that good, and we can sense that it is that holy manna that is falling from the heavens, that is renewing us, that is nurturing us, that is feeding us, strengthening us, and preparing us for all that is yet to come. And so I pronounce that it is good. I claim it for my spiritual community. I know that nothing can stand between what we are and who we are and the way that we desire that good. As much as we desire that good desires us. And so we are conduits. We are vessels, and we just allow life to move through us. We live and move and have our being in God. And we allow Spirit then to just express through us and as us. And I feel with great, tremendous joy the benefit of our yes. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for this day of remembering, of accepting, and being ready. I release these words into that divine law, knowing they are already done, and together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen, amen. Oh, my goodness. What a beautiful day. It is stormy outside, and it feels so magnificent. It's brought us some relief from the heat and some great reminder of how interesting life is, no matter what. I have some offering to share, and I would like to invite you to do the same. I have another check I have just tossed in there. Somebody gave me another check. They're tithing from their stimulus, their gift from the government. They are tithing to our community. Thank you so much for the many hands. Part of your giving is helping us to get ready, and it's allowing us to keep paying the bills and keeping our consciousness raised so that we can do all the things we know we've been called to do. I love you. I love you. If you desire to drive by today, Reverend Clyde's on his way out to the parking lot to receive your gifts, if it's a fun little outing on this little stormy day. And meanwhile, stay connected. We have lots of things. Check the website, WVCSL for West Valley Center for Spiritual Living, WVCSL.com. Everything you need you will find on the website, including the recording of this talk. I love you. Namaste.